Hello everyone, this is Nitpicking Nerd and I just watched the first episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian and I thought it was perfect, I loved it. The special effects and the cinematography and the way it was filmed was perfect, and also the story, the dialogue, the script itself was great. And the whole episode was like a homage to Wild West movies, and so there was a lot of references to that, when he walks into the bar. The only thing missing was those little doors. And all of this reminds me of what Star Trek Discovery tried to do recently. They also tried to do a homage of Wild West movies, and yet it wasn't done that well. It was kind of silly and pointless. And here it's done literally a million times better in every way. So visually, the way they set up the shots, the way it was done, and the story itself, it all felt like a classic Wild West story with all those elements in the story itself, not just in the visuals. And so that's something that I found very well made, a lot of attention to detail as always, and it also all fits with the universe of Star Wars, so a lot of correct references. We see a bunch of the same kind of creatures and aliens that we saw in the classic Star Wars movies, as well as some new additions, and so it still feels fresh. It's not just member berries, it's not just remember this, remember that, but it also has some new things, and it plays with the older things in a way that makes it worthwhile to get them back. And so, for example, the Sand People get a lot of development in this episode. Basically, you find out that they're not just savages, that you can actually make peace with them, and so it has that anti-racism message as well. And so I loved a lot of things in this episode. And the whole thing with that monster underground, I think it was obviously inspired by the Dune worms, but done in a different way, maybe even in a better way. And technically the Sarlacc pit I also think was inspired by that, and so it's not a new thing to pay homage to those spice worms on Dune. And I was also reminded of that movie called Tremors, which also was similar to things they did in this episode, the way the whole village shakes and everybody goes on high ground as that worm passes through the village. That kind of reminded me of the movie Tremors, which was pretty good, the first one. And they basically send Mando on a quest to kill this creature because it terrorizes everybody in this area. And this whole setup, this whole story, it kind of reminds me of all kinds of computer games I played as a kid, such as Fallout, in which the player is the mysterious stranger who goes from town to town, and people ask him for help to save their village or their town from some monster or some bad guys. And so Mando is that guy here, and so I love that element as well. And Baby Yoda didn't do much in this episode. He was kind of in the background, but he was cute as always. And he didn't age at all yet. I guess they'll try to keep him as a baby as long as possible, and it will kind of fit with what they set up. They said that he's 50 years old already, that he ages slowly, so I guess they're going to milk that as long as possible, so he's probably going to remain a baby the whole show, which I'm kind of okay with that, unless they do a time jump maybe in the very end. That might be interesting. So he was cute as always, and they introduced a brand new character who is wearing the armor of Boba Fett. In the first moment they showed him in that armor and I recognized him, but he was kind of standing strangely, and so immediately something looked very off, and I really hoped for a second it's not going to be Boba Fett because he looks kind of ridiculous. But then it's revealed that it's a guy who bought off that armor from some Jawas, who I guess found it in the desert, which immediately brings up the question, what happened with Boba Fett? How did they get his armor out unless he himself also got out? And that is something that I think a lot of fans always wanted to be established, because Boba was an interesting villain who got killed off way too easily, and so that was very unsatisfying, the way he was kind of killed off by accident in such an easy way. So I think everybody always wanted him to come back somehow, and they could always simply say that he managed to escape using his weapons and so on. So they did imply that early in the episode, even though we didn't see Boba yet. And he did show up in the very end of the episode, and he's played by the same actor who played his father in the prequels, so that fits perfectly because he's supposed to be a clone of his father, so he should look exactly like him. So I was really glad to see it's the same actor, and he apparently has some scars on his face and stuff like that, so that was also a very nice cliffhanger ending. And my guess is that he allowed that guy to keep his armor because he wanted to use him as bait to see if anyone will come looking for him, and so he allowed him to keep it and to wear it, and he simply observed from a distance, and this way it will be like, a target that other people will think that's Boba Fett, and if they come to get him, then the real Boba Fett will be looking from a distance. And so, that's kind of similar to how Obi-Wan looked over Luke from a distance. And so a lot of elements from Star Wars and from a lot of classic stuff that came before. And this new character who was wearing the armor, I also thought was really good. At first they kind of made him annoying, like the first scene he was in, he seemed to be kind of annoying, but then when they reveal his backstory, when they show what happened previously, suddenly you love him, suddenly he's a great character, and so I thought that was one of the best and quickest character development I ever saw in recent years. It's simply amazing how fast they managed to turn him from being someone you kind of dislike in his first appearance, and suddenly you love the guy a few minutes later, so that was pretty awesome as well. And we even get some character development of the Sand People, who also want to kill that monster, and so they joined up forces with the village and with Mando. And I think that has a very good kind of anti-racism message, because, you know, the people in the village, they kind of think of them as savages, as monsters, as inhuman, but then actually it turns out you can make business with them, you can actually deal with them diplomatically, and they are actually sentient and rational and all of that, so they're basically people that you can deal with. And so I thought it also has a nice kind of anti-racism message, so I really like that as well. And there's a lot of humor moments, a lot of funny moments, and the visuals are probably the best thing. It's simply perfect visually. It's really amazing. I think it actually looks visually better than any Star Wars movies that came before. Even though it's kind of simplistic, it doesn't have, you know, epic fleet battles. It's a much simpler story on one planet, and yet it's done so well. It's so visually realistic looking and awesome and artistic that I really enjoyed it. I thought it was excellent. I have no complaints at all visually. Maybe the only one is when they are flying with those jetpacks, and especially when they land, it kind of looks unnatural. Like you can tell that they are simply lifted with strings and something, and like the way they fly don't really look like they're propelled by rockets. But maybe I can explain it away by saying that, you know, it's not just a jetpack. Maybe it also has some kind of anti-gravity technology, which we do know exists in Star Wars. Obviously when they're riding their bikes and all of that, it also has anti-gravity tech, and so I can explain all of that away by saying maybe that suit also has some anti-gravity technology, and so that's why they seem to kind of always land softly and stuff, even though it doesn't really look, the angle doesn't look right with that rocket on their back. And so I can explain that away, and the rest of it looks so good that I can't really complain about the show visually, because it's mostly amazing in the visuals. And even the sounds and the music, all of it is also like the style of the Wild West movies and all of that, so all of it was great. It all feels natural, it all flows together, it all connects, and it's done well, and so it's worth it, it's fun. And as for Boba Fett, I guess he's going to be like the main villain of this season, and I think it's great that they brought him back, because I always disliked how easily he died in Return of the Jedi. He just accidentally fell into the Sarlacc pit and died. After so much build-up of him in the previous movie as someone awesome, to be killed off in such a way was really almost insulting, and so I'm finally satisfied to see that he didn't really die, and so he simply, I guess, he simply escaped from the Sarlacc pit, and maybe his suit was damaged, and so he had to sell it to the Jawas to get some other supplies, and I guess he went into hiding and kept an eye out on the guy that wears his armor now, so that he will attract all the attention. If anyone comes to kill him, Boba Fett, then they'll come for that guy, and then he'll able to see it from a distance and know his enemy and all of that. So that's kind of a brilliant tactical move on his part. And maybe he has another suit, maybe a better one that he got since, and so maybe we will see him in the suit hopefully, or he'll steal his old one back. So I'm really waiting to see what will come next, and so I think this show is awesome. I really enjoy it. That's all I had to say about it for today. Let me know what you think, and we can discuss it in the comment section below, and I will see you all next time. Bye bye.